With the 2025 NFL Draft about 1 month away, the Arizona Cardinals have a big, serious decision to make at the 16th overall pick. What are they going to do? Today, we're going to be diving into the top 5 prospects I would love the Arizona Cardinals to take at 16. Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video. Today, we're going to be diving into the top 5 prospects I would love the Arizona Cardinals to take at the 16th overall spot. Now, this is such a crazy time, right? We're about a month away from the 2025 NFL Draft, and I don't think anybody has a good grasp at what the Cardinals are going to do with the 16th overall pick. Now, honestly, right now, when it all stands, it's easier to make a prediction if the Cardinals are somewhere in the top 5, right? When they're sitting at the 16th overall pick in the NFL Draft, there's so many things that can happen between 1 through 15, trade ups, trade downs, right? Different teams can go after a quarterback and completely ruin multiple people's boards. So it's going to be a very, very intriguing and an exciting time to be an Arizona Cardinal fan, specifically looking at that 16th overall pick. Are we going to trade up? Or are we going to trade back? In this video, I really want to focus on if the Cardinals stay pat at 16 and the prospects I would love the Cardinals to potentially go after. Now, I'm not going to, put any prospects on this list unless I truly feel like there's a slight possibility that they can be there, right? So let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a huge favor if you're just joining in right now. Smack up the like button, subscribe it up. We are on the road to 17K and cannot do it without you guys. So definitely smack it up, that like button, and subscribe. So let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about my top 5 prospects I would love the Arizona Cardinals to get at 16 if they stay at that 16th overall pick. Now, Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. At one point, he was nowhere near my list because I never thought that the Cardinals can realistically pick him right at the 16th overall pick. Now, we're seeing a lot of different mock drafts out there, and he falls a lot of times to the 16th overall pick, so makes the Arizona Cardinals have a very, very big decision to make. Will the Cardinals go after a cornerback when they got such a young, promising young core right now with Starling Thomas V, with Garrett Williams, Max Melton, right? All these different players that can potentially be starters in the NFL. And obviously, we also used a 3rd round pick last year on Elijah Jones as well. So there's a lot of promise within this cornerback group. Now, the main reason why I put Will Johnson on this list is because there was a report that came out, I believe, late last week that the Cardinals actually used one of their top 30 visits on Will Johnson. And if they're not at least intrigued or interested in bringing him in, if he falls to 16, they usually don't use up a top 30 pick on him. So definitely intriguing. Probably one of the best corners in this 2025 NFL draft. 6'2", 194, 12 solo tackles, 3 touchdowns. I'm sorry, 3 interceptions, and that's actually a typo. It's actually supposed to be 2 touchdowns. So he actually had 2 pick sixes in the 2024 campaign. Like I said, that is a typo up there. It says 3 touchdowns, but that actually is supposed to say 2. But he does have 3 interceptions, and then he was a 2024 national champion with Michigan as well. So for what it's worth, the Arizona Cardinals right there can very well use a potential shutdown corner. Now, I know a lot of us are very excited about Garrett Williams, could potentially be that guy. Now, it's going to be a big decision. Will the Cardinals move him to the outside, or will they keep him where he flourishes in the slot, right? So right now, Garrett Williams, arguably our best corner, right? But we don't really have an outside guy. Now, if you do bring in a Will Johnson, it does kind of ruin the development of Max Melton, which we used on we used with a 2nd round pick last year. So I'm very intrigued to see where the Cardinals get with the 16th overall pick. But Will Johnson, obviously one of the top corners in this draft class, and it would be kind of foolish to say that the Cardinals are at least intrigued with the idea of potentially landing him at the 16th overall pick. So love the prospect, love the Cardinals to potentially go after him. Me personally, I would rather allocate it, a defensive line. But if he falls at 16, you at least gotta take a second look and really consider potentially bringing him into your secondary. So Will Johnson, on the top of my list, or not my top of my list, but he's a part of my top 5 prospects to grab at 16. Let's move on over to the next guy. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't want to touch James Pearce Jr. With the 16th overall pick because of the character issues of the report that we ended up hearing, or a rumor that came out saying that James Pearce Jr. has character issues. I don't know. I still do feel like he's probably one of my favorite edge players in this year's draft class. Now, there's a plethora of a lot of different edge players to choose out of. Obviously, the top one's going to be Abdul Carter. There's no way in heck, unless the Arizona Cardinals trade somewhere in the top 3, top 4, can land in Abdul Carter, right? So you're going to have to look at prospects that are going to potentially be at the 16th overall pick. Now, I've seen a lot of different mock drafts that he falls or that he gets taken at 11 or 12. I don't know, but I've also seen the mock drafts that he falls at 16, right? So the Cardinals need to make a very, very serious decision of if they're going to bring in another defensive lineman, which honestly I'm still on board with. I know we ended up bringing Dalvin Tomlinson in as well as Josh Sweat. I still don't think we have that dog opposite side of Josh Sweat on in this Nick Riley's defense. So I want to bring in another guy that's going to be able to do it. Now, obviously last year he had 7.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. In 2023 he had 9.5 sacks, but in the combine, he was kind of the talk of the town, right? Because he ran a crazy 4.47, which is absolutely insane for a guy this big, right? 6'5", 245, and had 23 solo tackles in 2024. So this is a prospect I would love the Arizona Cardinals to definitely go after. I don't know, man. There's something about James Pearce Jr. I feel like he's going to be one of those guys that is going to be picked up maybe in the late definitely in the teens. I don't think he's going to be top 10. He's going to definitely be in the teens from like 11 to like 19, but he's probably going to be the Jared Verse of the 2024 NFL draft class, where he was chosen right in the late teens, and he's flourished into being a really good pass rusher, especially a young guy with the Los Angeles Rams. And I don't know, I kind of want the Arizona Cardinals to get their guy. I don't know, I just want the Arizona Cardinals to get their edge rusher of the future, and this guy can potentially be that guy for the Cardinals. And I don't know, I just love the opportunity of potentially landing him. Let's move on over to the next guy. I can't have these top fives without putting Kenneth Grant in here. We're talking about a space eater, a guy with a lot of beef, a guy that's gonna take up a lot of room on the defensive line, a guy that can really stop the run on the opposing side. Now, obviously, when you're looking at the sacks, you're not really seeing a lot of sacks, right? He's got 3 sacks in 2024, but he's not brought in for that. Like, that's obviously a cherry on top of the ice cream, but he's going to be a guy that's going to give you pressure in the interior for your defensive line and stopping the run, at least help stop the run, right? He's got some really good instincts, especially if he's being blocked, can kind of come off a block and stop the run there, penetrate up the middle, doing just a very fantastic job for a big guy, right? 6'4", 331, 18 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 5 pass defense or defended. What that usually means is that puts his big mitts up in the air and defends a specific pass, right? Now, in 2023, he did have 3.5 sacks and he had an interception. So that came from a ball that was batted down and he came down with the ball. So he has an interception in his college career. I believe it was in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, really fantastic prospect for the Cardinals to potentially go after. I know a lot of guys are really salivating on the thought of getting, Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan as well, basically played alongside of Kenneth Grant. So if the Cardinals are serious about Mason Graham, they're going to have to trade up. Like, there's no way around it. But Kenneth Grant could be a very good option at 16 as well. Now, I do also see a world where if the Cardinals do decide to trade back, they could potentially still land a Kenneth Grant, but you can't obviously go too far back, right? I know there's some mock drafts out there saying the Cardinals can, recoup another 3rd round pick if they go somewhere in the 20s. Yeah, that's true, but you're also playing a very sticky game, right? Really dangerous game, because the guys that you want, there could be a lot of really good defensive linemen at 16 for you to choose. It's just going to be one of those situations that we're going to have to see how this plays out, right? Picks 1 through 15 is going to be very, very intriguing to see what the Cardinals are going to do and how it's going to shake up their draft board. But I like the idea of the Cardinals bringing in a big guy like Kenneth Grant. It would be a really, really good addition. It's just with Kenneth Grant, there's just so much interior guys we have on this roster. I know a lot of them are seen as depth more than anything, but I'm curious to figure out how the Cardinals are going to maneuver his playing time if we do bring in a said Kenneth Grant, right? But I guess you could say the same thing for James Pearce Jr. as well, because we got a lot of rotational guys opposite side of Josh Sweat. But, still, if you want to bring in some dogs on the D-line, I'm not mad at that. I still do think that's a big priority for the Cardinals heading into the 2025 season. So let's move on over to the next guy. Now, I know people are rushing to the comments. He's not going to be available there. What are you doing? Now, I've seen multiple mock drafts that he could be available. I've seen multiple mock drafts that he gets picked in the top 10, right? So I don't know. I'm going to put him out here. I still do think that he's one of the most intriguing players for me. Now, I really want the Cardinals to focus on bringing in players from these big schools, primarily Georgia. Like, if you're bringing in a Georgia boy, you're probably going to get a dog, right? I mean, they're the Georgia Bulldogs for a reason, but Jalon Walker did not participate in the combine. I think a lot of the guys, with the exception of probably James Pearce Jr., did not participate in the combine, the guys that are on this list. But he's 6'1", 243, 38 solo tackles, 6.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and in college, he did play middle linebacker and the edge. So I think that's kind of where people get a little sticky when it comes down to Jalon Walker because, as you know, the Cardinals went after a guy that played like a hybrid role in college as well out of Clemson. We ended up going after Isaiah Simmons, and he didn't really work out, right? But he played edge, he played middle linebacker, he played safety in college. He was the Swiss Army knife, right? And a lot of people fell in love with the idea of like, man, this guy's athletic. He's not going to fail in the NFL, and he just didn't really do good for the Cardinals. Obviously, we traded him away, and he is now on another team. But Jalon Walker, I feel like is a different breed, man. I feel like we're potentially getting a dog if he does fall to 16. Now, he might be the pipe dream out of my list for the Cardinals. If he falls to 16, I'll be absolutely shocked. But this is going to be a player that if he's there at 16, I don't think you shouldn't blink twice. Like, you probably should send in the card and say, I want to bring in Jalon Walker. But this is going to be one of those things that is just, man, I don't know if he's going to be there, but I want to put him on my list because I want to make sure that people are fully aware that you got to take a look at this guy's highlight reel, man. The instincts and what this guy can do. And he does middle linebacker and edge pretty darn good, right? So it's not like he does this okay and this okay, but, he does them pretty well. He plays them pretty with really good instincts, can shoot the gaps. He's got some really good burst off the defensive line. I honestly, I would rather use him as an edge rusher if he does come to the Arizona Cardinals, because obviously we need an edge rusher opposite side of Josh Sweat, a more of a established guy or a guy that's going to be, a true pass rusher, right? And I feel like he can definitely fit the mold. But like I said, it just depends if he falls to the Cardinals or not. So Jalon Walker definitely up there. Now, let's move on over to the next guy. I'm probably going to get a lot of people on my comments, but I wanted to add him on my list because, man, I really do like Emeka Egbuka. Now, is this a pipe dream? Is this one of those things where the Cardinals probably most likely will not go wide receiver? Yeah, it probably will not happen, right? 75% of it probably will not happen for the Cardinals to go after an Emeka Egbuka. And could I have used this last slot for a Josh Simmons? Yeah. Could I have used it for a Mike Green? Yeah, I could have, right? Or could I have used it on a different prospect, a Walter Nolan? Yes, I could have. But I wanted to make sure that I get different prospects, different positions on this list to kind of show you like, hey, there's going to be a lot of good players at their specific respected positions at the time the Cardinals pick at 16, right? So, yes. Yes. You're all right. But I really want to give some love here to Emeka Egbuka. I feel like one of the big concerns or things that really fans aren't talking about a lot is that the Cardinals are in need of a wide receiver. Like, they really, really are. Like, they need a guy on the slot. They need a guy that's going to be able to spread the field, cause separation and just kind of just spread the offense out a little bit more, right? And I feel like if you put an Emeka Egbuka on this offense, that can change wonders for this Arizona Cardinals offense. And I'm not being I'm being real here. Like, this guy is a playmaker. Like, he's probably one of the best wide receivers in the slot in this year's draft. Like, I get it. T-Mac is going to be an outside guy. He's going to be a dog. There's a lot of love coming from Matthew Golden. Luther Burton is also another slot guy as well. But I really do like Emeka Egbuka. And there's something about the Ohio State players, and we're bringing them all to the Cardinals. I kind of love that thing. But, Emeka Egbuka, 6'1", 202. 81 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and then 10 touchdowns, and then had a 40-yard dash of 4.42. Now, keep in mind that was in high school. He also didn't participate in the combine as well, but just look at the highlight reel, man. It seems like this guy is always getting open for his quarterback in Ohio State. Like, he's just done a fantastic job when he was playing with, Marvin Harrison Jr. in 2023. Now, he did get hurt. I believe it was a high ankle sprain, if I'm not mistaken. He did get held up for 3 games, but he did come back and put some pretty respectable numbers in 2023. But in 2024, he went off. Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't there. And we've seen some good wide receivers really flourish in the NFL, right, with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm going to put Marvin Harrison Jr. on there as well. I don't care what you guys say. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a really good season. And then you also got, who was it? Chris Olave. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he's a pretty solid wide receiver. There's another one that, Garrett Garrett Wilson, right? Garrett Wilson also comes from Ohio State as well. So there's a lot of good wide receivers coming from Ohio State. And to add someone like Emeka Egbuka, I feel like that would be the missing piece for the Cardinals on the offensive side of the ball. Now, like I said, could I have allocated this last top 5 prospect to any defensive lineman? Yes, I could have. But I really do like Emeka Egbuka and put him opposite side with Marvin, bringing him a familiar face. I feel like that would just do wonders for this Arizona Cardinals offense, and giving another weapon to Kyler Murray is not a bad thing. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, what are your top 5 prospects you would want the Arizona Cardinals to get at 16? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and go Cardinals.